On December 15th, 1989, a Boeing 747-400 prepared to depart from Amsterdam bound for Narita Airport, Tokyo. At 8:30 a.m, this state-of-the-art, one-year-old aircraft departs. The captain of the aircraft, Carl van der Elst, had just over 13,000 hours of flying experience. There were two first officers on this flight, Imo Vischer, 27 years old, and Walter Verboom, also in his 20s. The 14 crew and 231 passengers headed north, climbing above the British Channel. The flight made its way 7,000 kilometers to refuel in Alaska. KLM 867 was cruising towards Anchorage, Alaska. As the pilots configured the aircraft to begin its descent, they were fully aware that a volcano in southern Alaska had erupted the previous day. As the pilots began to descend, they did their best to navigate their way around volcanic ash. The previous day, volcanic ash had plumed high up into the atmosphere. The aircraft began descending through brown, slightly abnormal but innocuous-looking clouds. The crew were not totally sure whether these were or were not volcanic clouds, but as they passed through 26,000 feet, they made contact with Anchorage air traffic control. Shortly after this, though, things started to deteriorate. I'm now going to play you a recording.
Okay, do you have this side on the ash plume at this time? Yeah, it's just cloudy. It could be ash. It's a little flounder than the normal cloud, but
As the aircraft descended further, black, acrid smoke began to enter the cockpit. The pilots donned their oxygen mask and contacted ATC. Here's the recording.
we don't know. We have to go left now. It's smoky in the cockpit at the moment.
The pilots increased the maximum thrust and attempt to climb out and escape the clouds. The pilots attempt to climb to level 390. They were unaware that this increase in thrust would cause ash, which entered the engines, to heat up to extremely high temperatures. This ash turned into glass. The engines were clogged, smothered, and left gasping for air. Quadruple engine failure resulted in a temporary blackout in the cockpit. The aircraft was now gliding towards the Alaskan mountains. The pilots notify air traffic control of how dire their situation is and request immediate radar vectors. But as they battle to restart the engines, they're presented with an erroneous alarm telling them that there's a fire on board the aircraft. Again and again, the pilots retry engine restarts. In the cabin, the passengers would have been aware that something was clearly wrong. It would have been dark, smoky, and they would have even lifted up in their seats due to the extremely rapid rate of descent. For the 7th time, the captain attempts to restart the engines, but still has no luck. Due to the engines not being running, the ash inside them had cooled. The molten ash inside the engines had solidified and became brittle. The air travelling through the engines dislodged this solid ash. On the captain's 8th attempt, he finally restarted the engines on the left side at an altitude of just 13,000 feet, but they were not out of the woods yet. Although this aircraft could theoretically fly on two engines, it would be difficult, and given the mountainous terrain and the distance the crews still have to fly, they went about restarting the other two engines. Amazingly, the flight crew had managed to restart all engines and were able to reroute to Anchorage. Safe to say, the situation had clearly improved. Their windscreen had been sandblasted by the volcanic ash. Due to this ash being very coarse, the crew could barely see out of the windscreen and required guidance from air traffic control. KLM Flight 867 had made it without incident. They'd escaped the unthinkable. photo of the two pilots looking up at their wounded bird. I believe this photo speaks for itself, so I'm going to leave the video here.